There has been news regarding Trent coming out of Spain within the last 12 hours. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is James from CopLogic, and for today's video, I thought we'd take a look at what is probably the biggest talking point of the January transfer window for Liverpool Football Club, and that is the 3 contract extensions of who are arguably 3 of our most important players in Trent Alexander-Arnold, Mohammed Salah, of course, and Virgil van Dijk. Take a look at all the news, all the leaks and all the rumours, where they're coming from, and ultimately get a foothold on where we're at with each of the 3 players. So it probably makes sense to start with Mohammed Salah being the biggest one, so let's dive into it. So I'm sure you probably know by now, but it was about a week, 2 weeks ago, the story was leaked by an Egyptian journalist that Salah had in fact agreed terms for his new contract. Now, this guy obviously wasn't just anyone. He actually worked for beIN Sports and was a respected journalist within Egypt. Salah even follows him on social media. They've been pictured together and stuff like that. So it's not just a nobody making stuff up. Obviously, we don't know the legitimacy to these claims yet, and we're not going to know that until it's officially announced by the club, but let's just quickly take a look at what he actually said. Egyptian international and beIN Sports journalist congratulates Salah on signing his new contract with Liverpool under his terms and conditions, hinting that a renewal is a done deal. Now, at the time, people were speculating what this meant was that whatever Salah has asked the club for is what he's got, and you know, the fans have been asking for a long time, give him what he wants and all that. So that's what people were speculating had happened. What I'd heard in regards to this exact story is that, and this is where it kind of falls down for me a little bit, I'd heard that this was, according to sources in Egypt, this was a 3-year deal. It was for the same wages Salah's currently on now, so it's $350 a week. And the only thing yet to be agreed was a signing on fee for Salah himself. Now, it says here that he was congratulating him on that. Now, that could still be true if it's the case that Salah has agreed on the contract terms, but the club and Salah are yet to come to an agreement on the signing on fee before he signs on the dotted line. However, we know more recently from other talks that it's now seeming like it's a 2-year deal, so there's some conflicting information there, and it makes it hard to believe one or the other, to be honest with you. For example, not long after that story, John Richardson put out the following: Mo Salah is on the brink of signing a 2-year contract with Liverpool to end all doubts about his Anfield future. So there you've got the directly conflicting information from a 3-year deal to a 2-year deal. Could it be a 2-year deal with an extension? I think that'd be the most ideal thing for us as fans, and obviously for Mo Salah as a player, because then if there is that drop off in a couple of years, you've got a little bit of leniency, and if there isn't, it's very easy to extend this contract by a year. But it is at least promising to see these stories keep popping up, and they're always linking Salah with Liverpool. There's no foreign clubs involved or anything like that. And whilst we can consider all of this only speculation at this point, we finally got word from David Ornstein regarding all 3 players. And David Ornstein, if you don't know, is a massively well-respected journalist within the industry. Typically doesn't speak on things unless he knows that they're true. Very rare now for journalists to consider their reputation before they speak, but David Ornstein certainly is one. And he said, Liverpool make opening contract offer to Mohammed Salah. Salah, Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold have received proposals from LFC. Talks ongoing. At this point, we can probably say that is true. So Liverpool have given all 3 players proposals at this point. Obviously, they still need to accept those, or there needs to be talks ongoing. You never expect someone to accept the very first proposal, so they're probably going to say no, right? But that doesn't mean they don't want to stay at the club. It means negotiations will begin from there, and we'll see what happens. At least we know something has finally happened. Obviously, we had those interviews with Mo Salah not long ago where he was saying the club haven't even spoke to him. There's been no proposals his way. We now know all 3 players at least have had proposals. So the promising thing, I guess, is the club wants to keep all 3 of them. No one's on the chopping block. It just doesn't guarantee that they do all stay. He goes on to say, despite a growing belief around Anfield that Salah and Virgil van Dijk will stay, at present there is no certainty. I have to admit, I found it interesting there that he didn't mention Trent Alexander-Arnold in that statement. There is belief around Anfield that Salah and Virgil van Dijk will stay. Does that mean there's not belief around Trent Alexander-Arnold? We'll get into it in a minute, but it is starting to feel like of the 3, he is the least likely to sign. Melissa Reddy, who I'm sure you probably all know, works for Sky Sports. Again, very well-respected journalist, really rose to prominence in the last few years, and rightfully so. And she said, talks remain ongoing with Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk for a contract extension at Liverpool, with it being positive and respectful. She went on to say, the feeling and sense I get from Virgil and Salah is that they have no intention of speaking to overseas clubs in January. Now, first of all, that's huge because we know January is right round the corner, and if these contracts aren't sorted within the next couple of weeks, then all 3 players can talk to overseas clubs in January and start putting pre-agreements, pre-contracts in place for the end of the season. So it's obviously reassuring that Salah and Virgil have shown no signs of doing that. That doesn't mean they won't if the contracts aren't sorted in January though, because they've got their own futures to think about, but perhaps it makes the club feel a little bit more relaxed. I know a lot of people are wondering how we've let it go on this long and how, you know, we're halfway through December and we've still not heard any news on it, but if the clubs genuinely believe that they have no interest in going anywhere else, then it does give them a little bit more of a relaxed nature, gives them a little bit more time to really iron things out and get things exactly how they want. So if this statement is true, then I think there's not a massive amount to worry about there in terms of the timelines. And in regards to Trent, and I'm going back 2 days here with this one, but she did originally say talks remain ongoing between Liverpool and the representative of Trent Alexander-Arnold over a new contract. The dialogue has been very positive on all three and has been moving forward and being held in a very respectful manner. She said, I think with Mohammed Salah and Virgil van Dijk, it's been so unequivocal that they want to stay. They've never given any indication otherwise to my knowledge. There's been no negotiations with any external clubs. They have been focused on Liverpool. That is the inverse with Trent, because Real Madrid are heavily invested in getting him and he is seduced by that idea, and you can't really blame him for being so. He's achieved quite a lot with Liverpool, and in the interviews he's given recently, some of the statements he's been putting out, it's very much like I'm listening to Real's sale pitch being given back to me. Obviously that doesn't sound super promising. She did say that talks have been positive and are ongoing with Liverpool, so we know Liverpool are trying to keep Trent, but we also know, unlike Virgil and Salah, Trent does have an eye on Real Madrid and Real Madrid do want Trent, so there is an overseas club involved here, which means in January that door opens and Trent can start talking to Real Madrid properly. We obviously know he's already talking to Real Madrid at this point, but a pre-agreement can be put in place. So with Trent, really, time is of the essence. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Virgil and Trent were the two they wanted to get done before Mo, because if Mo does demand bigger wages and you give him it, then you open the door for Virgil and Trent to say, well, that's what I want as well. So it makes more sense to me to get the two of them done first and then do Mo Salah last, just from a financial standpoint. But it really feels like we're not seeing that. So much news about Mo Salah has been circulating about this 2-year contract and stuff. And really, we've had nothing on Trent or Virgil other than talks have happened. And in Virgil's case, it sounds a lot more positive than it does with Trent. But I would have thought Trent would have been one of the first ones, given that he's younger and given that it will be easier to get him done out the way before Mo Salah. So I really feel like the fact that there's more noise around Virgil and Salah is not necessarily a positive thing in regards to Trent Alexander-Arnold. And what she's talking about there in terms of listening to Real's sales pitch being given back to her, I think she's talking about the comments he made about he would like to win a Ballon d'Or one day. That's the kind of thing Real say. You know, they pitch at players, serial Ballon d'Or winners on the team, and you know, all the trophies they could win, the amount of Champions Leagues they won, that kind of thing. Like, that's the kind of thing Real Madrid pitch to potential world-class talent. I'm sure it's what they probably told Kylian Mbappe as well. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because Trent did recently talk about the Ballon d'Or, but Real Madrid very recently alienated themselves from the Ballon d'Or with the sort of childish and pathetic display they put on in regards to Vinicius Jr. not winning it, and then they didn't turn up and all that. So I'm not sure how viable it is. Look, the Ballon d'Or is kind of a bullshit award in the first place, but if it's something he wants, we know how petty they are there. Is a Real Madrid player likely to win it in the coming future? I mean, unless they make it undeniably clear that they deserve it, then I think after the stunt that they've pulled recently in regards to Vinicius Jr., it seems like an odd place to go if winning the Ballon d'Or is high up on your list. We also know that Trent said in the past, though, that he wants to captain Liverpool and it's his dream, and I do think he's very close to achieving that, but of course he'd have to stay at Liverpool to do that. So with Trent, it's a bit of a weird one. Like, he could just be playing games, you know, to get his wage up there, and you can't blame him for that necessarily. His agent will want what's best for Trent, and if that means getting him paid what they feel he's deserved, then, you know, fair enough. And if they have to leverage interest from Real Madrid to get Liverpool to pay out on that price, then I guess business is business. As long as it happens, as fans, that's all we care about. Then, of course, there is the fact that we recently beat them in Anfield, and you kind of look at the situation and think, what is there to love about Real Madrid if you're Trent Alexander-Arnold, a Liverpool lad, a Liverpool local? If it's trophies he wants to win, and if it's Ballon d'Ors he wants to win, there's no reason, looking at Liverpool's current form, if things stay on that trajectory, there's no reason you can't win trophies at Liverpool. There's no reason you can't win a Ballon d'Or at Liverpool. Liverpool are European royalty. Could Manchester City fall off? Could Liverpool begin a dominant era in the Premier League? Look, all of these things are possibilities under Arnold slot. All of these things are possibilities if we bring the right players in the transfer windows. And all of that obviously begins with extending all three of these contracts, to be honest with you. But what I'm saying is, it's possible for Trent to achieve everything he wants to achieve in the game and stay at Liverpool. It just sounds to me like Liverpool have got some work to do. It sounds like perhaps his head has been turned a little bit. And most notably on that, within the last 12 hours, we've had a report coming out of Spain, courtesy of Virgil, who are a very highly respected outlet in Spain when it comes to all things Barcelona and Real Madrid. And they said earlier this morning / last night that at Real Madrid, there is a sense of optimism Trent Alexander-Arnold will sign, but it is far from a done deal, with Liverpool doing everything they can to convince him to stay. Again, not massively promising. However, the one thing to consider is if Trent Alexander-Arnold's representatives are playing the game to get everything they can out of Liverpool, then they do have to make it look like he is somewhat interested in a move to Real Madrid if they want to get that price margin up a little bit. So for now, we're gonna have to wait and see. But what I will say and what I will take from all of this is that it sounds to me like, I mean, if you're a betting man, you can put your money on Salah and Virgil extending, and then Trent seems like is up in the air. I think if one of them is not going to get done right now, it sounds mostly like it's going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold, you'd have to say, looking at all that evidence there. But the promising thing is, it sounds like Salah's is very much on the way. I actually heard a rumor that Virgil's was also done and they wanted to wait until Christmas. If you remember when Virgil initially signed for Liverpool, they did that Christmas post with him by the Christmas tree. Apparently they want to recreate that, but again, take that with a pinch of salt because I don't know how accurate those reports are. That is just what I heard. So it could be the case that a little bit closer to Christmas we hear some news on potentially Salah as well, or maybe all three, fingers crossed. But I think the optimism around Salah is certainly there because he's had the most news about him and the most leaks regarding it, that it's going to be a 2-year contract and all of those things. So I'm optimistic. For Virgil, I'm optimistic. For Trent, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of work there that needs doing. But we'll have to wait and see. Let me know down in the comments what you think about all three of these. If you had to let one go, who would it be? I actually think Trent is the most replaceable. I know he's younger, and you would look at it as like it's future-proof in that position. And of course, he's world-class in that position as well. But I think it'd be easy to get another great right back in than it would to replace someone of Virgil van Dijk's caliber in that centre-back position, and of course, someone to replicate Mo Salah's numbers. To me, in many ways, it makes more sense to extend Mo than it does to go and sign someone. You're not going to get someone as good as Mo Salah for anywhere under 100 million, and even then, who are you getting? Who is that 100 million player that's going to post the numbers Mo Salah's going to post? And on top of that 100 million, you've then got to discuss the wages. I think it would ultimately cost more to bring anyone in than it would to just extend Mo Salah, who's still posting absolute world-class numbers. You know, he's in the Golden Boot race this season. So it honestly makes more sense to extend Mo Salah. And I think the rumors we're seeing all indicate that that is what's going to happen. So fingers crossed about Mo Salah. And yeah, get down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about all three of these. And as always, if you have enjoyed the content, make sure you hit a like on that video. It's free to do and it helps us out massively. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed already, so you can make sure that you see me again. And as always, guys, we will see you in the next video. Peace.